All right, second graders, on your quarter 2 sheet, you have at the end, number 14, study Native American works of art and create an original work of art inspired by that. You will be talking about Native Americans in your classroom as well. So if you want to wait until you've talked about them in your classroom to do this one, that's totally fine. But I'm going to show you some Pueblo pottery today and show you kind of how I would make an example of that. So Pueblo pottery is something that looks sort of like, well, it does look like this. And their pottery, their clothing, and making the baskets were just a part of their arts and crafts of the Southwest Native Americans. They use symbols and signs to represent their ideas, beliefs, dreams, and visions. Pottery was made for everyday use. They would use these for cooking, storing things in, even using it for their bath. They would get hot water in them and, well, they put water in them, heat it up in here, and then they would use their towels to wash with. And so they would use it that way as well. They painted them and they carved them with designs, and these kind of a lot of times told stories to them. So if you notice on these two examples, can you find any squares on them? Do you see a triangle or a diamond? Look for a circle. What other shapes do you see? So you kind of need to look at them and see how they decorated them. Here's another one. What shapes do you find on these, or what patterns? Notice that it's not just one of that shape, it's repeated, or it's at least going all around the top edge. Then down here you can see some of the same shapes repeated on either side. So when you are making your piece of pottery or your example of pottery, what you're gonna do is get a piece of brown paper. Now there is light brown and there is dark brown. You can have one of each if you would like, or you could get one of or two of the light brown or two of the dark brown. That's up to you. And since we want to make this pot the same on both sides, that's called symmetrical, you can fold the paper in half to make that happen. So on this folded edge, I'm going to move this out of the way, you're going to want to draw half of your pottery pot. And so half of it, you're going to be thinking about the edge of the outside of the pot. So you want to think about what shape you want it, if you want it to have a handle or not. These do not. So the one that's on the example here does have a handle. That will be a little more difficult. Not impossible, but you do have to think about how to draw that. So you're going to draw the top of the pot, start here on the folded edge, and you want to make it come out a ways, and then bring the lip of the pot down, and then you can come back out. You can make it whatever shape you want. This is just how I'm going to make mine. And then the bottom of the pot here where it's flat again, okay? You want to stop on this fold line and start on that fold line. Then you're going to get scissors and cut that out. So when you open it, it will be the same. As you're cutting this out, go slowly. Make sure that you are going through both pieces, that it has not become unfolded. You'll throw this piece in the trash, and this piece will be your piece of pottery. Now you're going to need to divide this into sections. So you're going to want to draw from one side to the other and draw inside of it a design. It might be that you're going to pick one shape and draw a pattern, or you might pick a couple of shapes and draw a pattern. Again, go back to the pictures that we just looked at and think about what kind of pattern you might want to make. Maybe you want to make, I like this little checkerboard looking, or the little square border on there. So I think I'm going to add that up here on my piece of pottery and down here on my piece of pottery. And so you'll draw that all in there. And once you've drawn it, I've got one that I've already started. And this is a different shape. I obviously did not fold my paper in half this direction. I would have folded it in half the tall direction. So that's why I have a taller pot instead of a wider pot. And then I drew my designs, and I'm going to have you outline it with a black. And then you're going to use colors from the collage area that are those crayons. They're called construction paper crayons. And you'll color in your design using those. You'll have two that you complete. So again, you can do a dark and a light, or you can do two darks or two lights, but two different pots. When you finish coloring them in, you will take some black charcoal pastel and rub it along the edge of one side of your pot. So there's some here and there's some on the left side of this one. Then I also took some white charcoal or chalk and rubbed it on the other side so it looks like it's more 3D. Okay? Neatness counts. If you make sloppy work, I will make you start over. So make sure you do a good job. And then you can ask me for a big piece of paper to glue them down onto so that they will look finished. So they'll actually get glued onto a background. I like to overlap them a little bit, like one in front of the other, so it does look like there's also not just a flat piece of art. And I also like to do one short pot and one large tall pot. So you can decide again if you want to do that. So I've made a couple of examples that aren't all finished, but here's a couple more so you can see some other ideas of what you could put on your pot. Okay, a lot of times they would fish, the Native Americans would fish, and so that's why I put a fish on my pot. This one is an eagle. This is a symbol that they also use a lot. You may remember when the Native American came to our school and he had those wings that he put on during his ceremonial dance, and so that kind of reminded me of that. So I also used that. You could also use metallic colored pencils on here. This is kind of a shiny silver color. That's probably what I used on that. So that is how you could accomplish and make Native American work for your number 14.